We acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people and pay our respect to those past and present. Tonight's invocation is provided by Chaplain Timothy Miller, Naval Air Station Whidbey Island, serving in his civilian capacity as an Anglican priest and local faith leader. So if we could all please stand for prayer.
Thank you. As your faith or conscience allows, I invite you to join me for prayer. Almighty God, by your gracious care and keeping, we are enabled to be together this evening. And I thank you for those who give themselves in the service of others as stewards of land and life and home. I ask today that you would bless and guide our Oak Harbor City Council members, give them wisdom, patience, and courage to lead in a way that upholds all the blessings of our civic life, that those who have gone before have ventured much for us to enjoy. Grant brave and enduring hearts to undertake the tasks today with charity, integrity, and compassion, that all who find themselves within the boundaries of our responsibilities may find there a life well lived by your grace. Amen.
This will be both a physical meeting and a virtual meeting. Some members of city staff or consultants may be participating via teleconference. Today's meeting may be viewed on YouTube, Facebook, and following the meeting on cable channel 10 HD 1090. Everyone is present and accounted for, so there's no reason to call roll. Councilmember Wittgenstein will be participating remotely via Zoom. Approval of the agenda. Are there any suggested changes to the regular agenda as it is presented? All right, hearing none, it will be approved as presented. And then we're going to move on to public comment. Members of the public may comment on consent agenda items or subjects of interest not listed on the agenda at this time. There will also be an opportunity to comment on the remaining agenda items during the meeting as appropriate. Comments on public hearing items will be heard during that portion of the agenda. The public can also visit our website prior to our meetings for methods to submit public comments or contact the city clerk, Julie Nestor, by phone or email. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comments sent anonymously or from a non-verifiable address will be shared with the mayor and council but will not be displayed. We received no new public comments since our last regular meeting. Are there any members of the public present who wish to speak to items not listed on the agenda or on the consent agenda?
Mayor, we have one person who is signed in to speak, and I hope I say your name correctly, Corinne Lurch.
Great. If you could step forward, state your name and your address, and then limit your public comment to 3 minutes, please. Thank you.
You got it. Can everyone hear me okay? Ladies and gentlemen of the council, my name is Corinne Lurch. I live at 3033 Robin Lane in Oak Harbor. I appreciate your time this evening. My concern comes to you as a citizen of Oak Harbor as well as a business owner. It lies within the grounds of the safety and health and economic impact of businesses located in the Enterprise Edition, which is on Barlow Street between Highway 20 and Barrington Drive, and also the commercial district that surrounds there. In July, just a little backstory, I'm a broker with Windermere Real Estate, and in July, I listed 1421 Southwest Barlow Street for sale. I've received interest from 4 potential investors and owner-operators. When speaking with them, the main concern and reason for not continuing with an offer is the ongoing issues with the homeless population that congregates around 1241 Southwest Barlow Street, specifically citing open drug use, loitering, panhandling, intimidation, public urination and defecation, and increased crime. The increase in this unwanted and unsafe activity is having a direct financial impact on my client and the ability to sell their property. As a matter of fact, they've just reduced their purchase price by $100,000. This has cost my clients potential buyers and the loss of a long-term tenant who felt the health and safety of their employees and customers were compromised by the actions of unhoused people causing problems in the area. I read the article on the city's website addressing the community concerns regarding the nonprofit organization who rents the building located at 1241 Southwest Barlow Street. I do take issue with citing of RCW 35.21.683, as it states, "A city shall not prohibit transitional housing or permanent supportive housing in any zones in which residential dwelling units or hotels are allowed." It goes on to speak about emergency housing and cites WAC 458-16-320, which defines emergency housing as emergency housing means a facility whose primary purpose is to provide temporary or transitional shelter and supportive services to the homeless in general or to specific population of the homeless for more than 60 days. This organization does not provide housing to its clientele, rather specific services such as meals, laundry service, referrals to related entities. I will not take away from the importance of helping unhoused people. That is not why I'm here. However, I am certain this location is not suitable for the community of Oak Harbor, the owners and operators of the properties and businesses in proximity, or the customers who frequent the businesses located near and around 1241 Southwest Barlow Street.
Ms. Lurch,
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, that's your 3 minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, there you have it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any, yes?
If the public spokeswoman wanted to have somebody else also speak with regard to any remaining topics, well, you got to get,
No, I was going to call for additional comments,
Oh,
so.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to step forward and make public comment at this time, even if you did not sign up? Yes, sir. Step forward, state your name, address, and then your public comment, please.
My name is Tom Lurch. My address is 3033 Robin Lane, Oak Harbor. All right, I will continue my wife's statement here. I keep wondering why a nonprofit is allowed to establish services in Oak Harbor's core economic center when it does not conform with the RCW as defined in the city's statement. The data provided specifically states there has been an increase in the number of calls in the area, both emergency and policing, which places an undue burden on taxpaying businesses, property owners, and citizens of the community. To protect the health and safety of Oak Harbor citizens as well as the financial health of the really the biggest commercial district in Oak Harbor. I mean, you've got Walmart, Safeway, Hagen's, all right there, and what's right in the middle of it is a homeless shelter. Seattle has tried that, and it's not working out too well for their downtown area. So it's something to think about. I suggest the council readdress the decision to allow that service in Oak Harbor's largest commercial district. I understand that it's not going to be an easy task. However,
Correct.
Time is important. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Mayor, that concludes those that had signed up to speak.
Great. Is there anybody else that's here with us this evening that has not signed up that would like to step forward and speak at this time? All right, seeing no one else, I will close public comment at this time and move on to our consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. Are there any objections or changes to the consent agenda as presented? Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull off items E and F, please.
So just for the record, E and F are lodging tax and lodging tax grant funding level referral to council? Okay. So you're making a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, removing sections E and F. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, do I have a second? All right.
Second.
Jeez. All right, well, we have 3 seconds. All right, we have a motion to approve consent agenda with sections E and F removed, and then we have a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, so all in favor of this change? All right, it's unanimous. So then we need to bring back E and F, is that what we need to do?
Yes, sir. In regard to E, there was some question at our workshop about the question of sustainability, long-term sustainability without LTAC funds, and I just wanted, it's still on there. I know, Mayor, you had expressed some concern, and so I was hoping maybe Councilmember Stuckey could speak to the reasoning behind that, particularly when we have events like music festival that get a large portion of LTAC funds, but don't really have a fundraising mechanism. We don't charge tickets or anything of that nature. So the thought process on how they could become more sustainable without having to rely upon those LTAC funds.
Wendy, do you want to take this and I can piggyback on you? I want to make sure we got a similar message.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Wendy Horn. I'm the grants administrator. So what Councilmember Marshall is referring to is one question that we added, and I'm just going to, I guess I don't have it here, but it was in reference to sustainability, and we actually changed it so that it reflects that we ask applicants how they're going to become less reliant on LTAC funding, to just basically get a feel for how they're going to be looking for other funding mechanisms. I think that was the goal.
I suppose a couple thoughts. One, and it was alluded to last time, keep in mind this application is for profits and nonprofits. So obviously profits do have a funding mechanism. And I'm kind of going by memory a little bit because I'm trying to remember the conversation from the LTAC meeting that we had 6 months ago or so. But these LTAC funds, they're not guarantees, nor should they be guarantees. Yes, the music festival brings a lot of people, and yes, it's logical that we award it to the music festival, but it's not a guarantee. So trying to find ways to supplement, it's not like you're instantly out by any means. It's just, can you try to find some ways to be less reliant on the grants we have? Because that grant may not always be here. And then what do? So I think that was a little bit of the mentality. I mean, I'm no problem if people wanted to reword that question or something like that, but it's just a matter of, we have some organizations that could try to get funding. Let's take, and I'm not saying specific, let's take the Playhouse. I think the Playhouse is a non-profit despite having a profit. Yeah, they continue to apply for grant, which is okay. I mean, we want people applying for grants. We want to get these grants out, but are they doing anything to come a little less reliant on the money that we have? Because the money that we have is no guarantee. So I do like the comments from Mayor last time about it being maybe a little too harsh. I feel like the rewording kind of softens it a little bit. Hey, are you going to do anything to try to make up some of the difference if something were to happen? But I'm all open if someone was to reword that question and have as a suggestion.
So potentially, as a point of clarification, I know it has to be an equally based merit system. I get that for all applicants, but can there be less emphasis on the sustainability portion for nonprofits versus for-profit organizations? Also, we need to look at some of these larger nonprofit organizations where they have substantial donors and sponsorships that they already go out and obtain in the form of title sponsorships or stage sponsorships or beer gardens and different things. So they are doing those things as well. But again, the intent there is to be making sure that they're capturing enough money to give back a maximum amount in scholarships to high school students within music programs, or as also music instruments to the schools. So I think, again, I think there's a little bit of a contradiction, which is the only reason that I made that difference or that point in our last meeting. So, yeah, go ahead.
And I would say two thoughts, and I'm only using the music festival because that's what's being brought up. These dollars are to increase stays in beds. That's the thought. These dollars are not to provide instruments for children in need. Right? So I would hate for a grant to be awarded a higher grant so that they could give more money away for instruments. Well, that's not the point. The point is to get heads in beds. Giving a scholarship is wonderful, but that's not what the LTAC dollars are for. One thing that we could do is, it's also important to note the weighting of it. Right now, this is worth 10%. We could always switch it to 5%, so it's on there, but to be honest with the music festival, that's why we changed, one of the reasons why we changed the shoulder season. The shoulder season used to be 15%. We all know the music festival does well. Instantly, they're docked 15% because not the shoulder system. So we adjusted it, not for them, but because we felt it wasn't fair. So we could leave the question, and we could go from 10% to 5% if that's more palatable. It's just, where does the other 5 points go? What question is weighted more?
No, and I agree with you. And I would also, if I were making an argument, which I'm not, but if I were making an argument, I would say that there's not probably another festival that goes on in our community that brings more people into the community and heads in beds than this one. So, yeah. Councilmember Wiesner?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of thoughts on it. I actually like the idea of actually knowing the answer to the question, because, it's forward thinking. What about if we made it bonus points, however? Right. I mean, you just hear me out. I mean, the reality is there is a certain amount of things that are important in determining this, such as heads in beds, the viability. I mean, you guys are going to take a lot of things in consideration when you're scoring these things. The growth of an event. How much you like the event. I mean, that's part of having different people from different parts, of the hotel community and et cetera. What if self-sustainability was like an above and beyond thing? You're never going to score 100%. I've yet to see an event, even the music festival, score 100% in any LTAC scoring system, right? What if self-sustainability was a bonus? What if it wasn't necessarily a determining factor, but for some organization that had a self-sustainable plan, what if that gave them a little nudge on that particular year, mind you, right? Because if somebody has a self-sustainable plan, they may not be the top dog for that 1 year, but it may be that 1 year they need to get off the ground to launch that self-sustainable plan, and then another group can come in and make benefit off that money because they've moved on. I'm just saying, I think it's a valid question to ask. I don't know that we should necessarily be disqualifying somebody because they don't have a self-sustainable plan. I think that's kind of what I'm hearing, that our concerns are, that we would be actually turning down an event because they do not qualify in this area. And so, just a thought.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a comment?
Sort of. Thank you, Mayor. I don't know. I'm conflicted about this because the thought that keeps running through my head with all these questions, like, well, that's why there's an application process. That's why we have a group of people that review this, and if it doesn't, meet the criteria, or if it's not about, like this, the overnight stays is worth 20 points, and the economic investment in the community is worth 10 points. So while the point of the LTAC grant isn't necessarily to purchase musical instruments, the investment in the community, does have a point value. But I'm also thinking about the sustainability piece, which I understand if that's important to I mean, I don't know, I get the point, but I'm also wondering, how and when is it our place to address sustainability? Wouldn't that be the responsibility of the organization or the event? If I had an event that was completely dependent upon a grant that I'm not guaranteed to get, that's a me problem. That's not I don't see how that's the city's problem. That's me needing to plan better, I guess, for my event, and the sustainability. So, I don't know. I think it's a valid question, and I appreciate the decrease in terms of the point system and the reliance on that, because I don't think the sustainability piece is really. I mean, I don't know. The argument could be made that if an event is continuing, then it would build, and that would accomplish the tourism heads and beds thing if people can rely on this happening year over year. So, I kind of get both sides of it, I guess. I don't really have a point other than I'm conflicted on. I'm conflicted on us parsing out 5 points here and 10 points there when there is a review process, but the review group needs guidelines. So I don't. At what point are we micromanaging? I guess is my overall thought. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
That was a lot of nothing.
Councilmember Stuckey.
Right behind my love nothing. So
Perhaps, and
hopefully we help.
and keep in mind, this was coming from a group of people who all agreed that there should be this kind of question on there. It had been a while since the application had been given a hard look over. We kind of were noticing some flaws in the process. We do have a lot of places that have gone to the well over and over again. Most of them have a funding mechanism. The music festival does not. Most of them doesn't. We get the Muirkirk Gardens every year, things like that. The bonus points, while I get where you're going, that'd be real hard in practice. Normally what happens is we get the points, we all grade them, I come up with some rationale and present it. So that either means everyone below the certain points gets nothing, or it means it's weighted based on the points. It'd be difficult for it just to be bonus points. I don't really know how practically that would work, because we'd still grade it based on points. One thing we can do is we could always leave it on for this year, and if it doesn't work, change it the following year. I mean, we did change some questions. The big ones were having more emphasis on heads and beds. How's it going to benefit Oak Harbor, not Whidbey Island, Oak Harbor, and the shoulder season? We made all those adjustments to this application. So we could always do it for one, and if it doesn't work, we'll notice the flaw as we go through it. Otherwise, I'm open to changing points as long as there's still 100 points total. It makes it easy to make percentages. So I'm not strong on it, but I think it should remain.
Councilmember Merrill.
Anytime you do a survey, anytime you do an evaluation where you assign numbers, there are criteria by which you specify the numerical value. And as anybody done empirical research statistics understands, there are some things that are quite objective, like the number of heads, the number of beds, the amount of dollars, and such matters like that. But you get into projections into the future, and you start awarding points based on, say, sustainability or what we plan to do, and then it becomes very much more nebulous. So, my nuts and bolts mentality about doing basically what we can really get our firm grip on, and then if there's an outlier, some project or something that doesn't really fit the normal pattern because it's new or unproven, then that would be something that you would introduce into a new setting. So I say all that because anything that requires a subjective evaluation can lead a bias of a couple of points, which would lead to a funding or a non-funding at a certain level. So the sustainability piece, I would, especially since it's bonus points, right? That means those points aren't available to anybody else who's not sustainable.
It's not a bonus point thing right now. That was just what one of the things suggested.
Okay.
Right now, it's not a bonus point thing. Yeah.
But anyway, I just mentioned that to remain objective and look for an optimal solution, as is my longstanding practice. Let's see. And I did want to brag on whoever about the shoulder season. I thought that adjustment was great on the scoring. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Because, thank you for the reminder, Councilmember Stuckey, that these, changes were brought about by the group that does the evaluations, and so it's easy for us to, it's easy, to kind of sit here and try to parse out the details, but at the end of the day, I'm going to support the recommended proposal, because if the group that year after year looks through application after application is the one suggesting these changes, then I'm going to defer to that experience. And like you said, if it ends up needing to be tweaked because the changes are not as productive as the LTAC committee had hoped, then we can always reevaluate. But in terms of approving what's put in front of us tonight, then I will I will defer to the experience of the group and approve the request, because they would know better than I.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, I don't think it's a showstopper, right? You guys have put the time and the effort in. Just here's my vision sitting up here. What if it's a one-year event? What if they're planning a one-year event and it's a one-year event? There is no sustainability plan. There is no chance for 10 points, and obviously they're going to score a lot lower. What if everybody comes in with their sustainability plan is that we're going to grow the event to the point that we're sustainable? But if everybody did it, would everybody get 10 points or would everybody get 0 points, right? Because for some events that actually makes sense, right? And for some events that wouldn't make sense. So that was my only concern, that it almost ends up kind of an all or nothing thing. You either are a type of an event that's sustainable, and as long as you can lay out that plan in a sensible fashion, you're probably going to get 10 points. Or you're a non-sustainable event or a one-of event, and there is no sustainability plan, and you're 0. And so that was my only concern. Where's the middle on that for some of the events?
Yes, Councilmember Stuckey. Thank you, Councilmember Wiesner.
It's a good point about the one-time events. I can't think of too many. I mean, most events that I've seen applications for at least strive to be multi-year, but it's a valid point. And I will say, it's fascinating seeing the subjectiveness of the scoring. Having done it now for 4 years, most people are not all or nothing that I've seen in the scoring. I would say rarely is someone an all or nothing. Oftentimes I know I'm not. Normally I'm like, well, they got a plan, but it's not really feasible, so maybe I'll give them 7. So it's not all or nothing. But it's a good point about this single event. I think that most that apply for it normally, I can't think of too many who have been pretty clear saying this is just a one-time event. But I do understand the concern.
Councilmember Arms.
I have a question. I know we already approved the money for the ChalkFest. Isn't that a one-time event?
I mean, I would imagine no. I mean, is it a one-time event? Yes. At this point, if it's successful, I bet they're going to try to do it year after year.
But that's what I'm saying. They've only planned for a year. They haven't said, we'll try it again. They haven't put everything out there. That's all I'm saying. I mean, they haven't worked it. In other words, we're just going to have this big event, and we hope it all goes well, and there you are. I mean, so it kind of makes it confusing for anybody else who wants to try and doesn't have a plan to go further. I mean, we've already done it, but I mean, I'm just saying, I don't have any problem with it. It's just, then you're saying, well, you have to have some plan. Well, I don't see any other plan. So it kind of makes it confusing as to how we're looking at this, since we already gave and we don't know. I mean, if it fails, then of course they're going to go no. But they don't have anything to say what's going to happen after. That's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Arms.
Now we trust you to open it.
Is there anybody else on this topic before we move to topic F? Councilmember Marshall, did you want to?
Yeah, get yourself out of this.
Gotta be careful about it.
I appreciate the conversation and explanation. And, you know, I trust the LTAC committee's judgment on this. They're the ones that are ultimately going to make this decision. And so, I just wanted to ask the question because I don't, some have more of an ability to be self-sustaining than the others. And so I was just looking, you know, for the rationale. And so I appreciate the conversation.
All right, thank you, sir. So moving on to 2026 lodging tax grant funding level referral to council. You want to? Yeah.
On that, Mayor, I appreciate it. I may have missed something, but I swore when I first read the packet, it was at 450,000, and now it's at 475. No, when I first got my packet, though, and first read it, I thought the funding level was at 450, and now it says 475. And so if it had changed, I just wasn't sure if all of us were aware that that funding level had changed, and so. Yours says 450, mine says 475.
We
Yeah.
did make that change the day after the workshop.
Okay.
So the initial packet you might have seen might have said 450.
Okay.
It was per your request, actually.
I know, and that's why I was gonna bring up changing it, but I ran into Wendy ahead of the meeting, and she said it had already been changed. I just wasn't sure if all of us had seen that change had been made, and so,
That's
It is on the packet
that's
now.
reflective of your, that was the Marina one, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Mayor, yeah. So I supported at 475 and appreciate that change being made, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was that's the background summary was before and then it was changed, yeah, okay. All right, so are we all on the same page and everyone is great now? And I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda E and F items.
I move to approve consent agenda items E and F.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to approve consent agenda items E and F, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion before? Yes, Councilmember Stuckey.
Just to be clear, this is increasing the funding level by 25,000. It is not increasing it necessarily for the marina, because the marina has to apply for it like everybody else.
Yes,
So
yes.
just to clarify.
Yeah. Any other discussion before I call for a vote? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
She's coming back. Yeah, she's coming back. All right. Bear with me. Mayor's comments. Way to go, team. The city's wastewater treatment plant has been named an outstanding treatment plant for 2024 by the Washington State Department of Ecology and recognized with an Outstanding Performance Award. The award is given for excellent compliance with water quality monitoring and reporting requirements and in meeting water quality permit limits. It recognizes the hard day-to-day work that our wastewater operators perform. This is the second time our plant has won this award since its inception in 2018. The first award was for 2022. Congratulations to our plant staff. Thank you to everyone who came down for our last Wright blend prior to buskers on the corner. Thank you again to Captain Gamache, Naval Air Station Whidbey Island Commanding Officer, for joining me and responding to questions from the community. Thanks to the Main Street Association for providing the refreshments. Thank you to Councilmembers Merrill, Arms, and Marshall for attending. And thanks to our staff, including our Fire Chief Travis Anderson, Harbor Master Elise Henry, and Assistant Harbor Master Charlie Kurt for being there and answering questions as well. Save the date. Our next Wright blend will be Friday, September 19th at Regency on Whidbey, located at 1040 Southwest Kimball Drive, starting at 10 a.m. We hope to see you for coffee and conversation. Naval Air Station Whidbey Island Open House I was joined in attending by Councilmembers Marshall and Arms and Police Chief Slowick and Communications Officer Aguilar. Naval Air Station Whidbey Island did a great job of making all of us feel welcome. We had our all-staff meeting. City offices were closed for an all-staff meeting and picnic lunch on Thursday, August 28th, 2025. This annual event is part of the city's wellness benefits program and included outdoor games, raffles, and employee awards. This is also where we announced the upcoming employee survey. Regency on Whidbey Rockathon. This fun event was to raise awareness and funds for Alzheimer's research. City Administrator Combs and I attended. The council members Arms and Stuckey attended earlier in the day as well. Thank you to everyone for making that a great event. Oak Harbor Music Festival. Congratulations to the festival board for another wonderful event. Thank you for all of your hard work in bringing this well-loved event to our community each year. Many of our staff volunteered and had a great experience. Back to school. I and city staff would like to wish everyone a safe and wonderful school year. Let's all remember to slow down in school zones and be mindful of students on their way to and from school in our neighborhoods. Speaking of back to school, I was happy to hear from our engineering department that a new flashing crosswalk at Olympic View Elementary is now open for use. Compacted gravel is in the place until concrete ramps can be installed. This enhanced crossing will aid in safe pedestrian travel across Regatta Drive and assist in utilizing Sumner Park as an alternative student drop-off pickup location. Thank you to Oak Harbor Public Schools, our police department, and Public Works in coordinating and accomplishing this during the summer break. Also note that's not on here, we will be at schools tomorrow. I think it's myself and Maggie at the high school at 7:30 in the morning. Thanks for that. Upcoming community events. There are a number of upcoming events in our community. Pictured here are the Military Appreciation Picnic, free to all in our community at Windjammer Park on Saturday, September 6th from 12 to 4 p.m. And our new Harvest at the Harbor event, Saturday, September 13th from 11 to 2 p.m. at the Oak Harbor Marina's Catalina Park. Advisory board vacancies. We will have openings on several of our city advisory boards and commissions. See the city's website for information on how to apply and requirements for applicants. Stay connected. Stay connected to city information and activities at any time by visiting our website and our Facebook page. With that, I will turn it over to council for their comments at this time. Councilmember Arms.
I just want to say the music festival was great, was fabulous. The teams that performed were absolutely awesome, and I thought it was better than last year. I was really impressed, and I will be at Oak Harbor Elementary tomorrow morning. So that's where I'll be at. 8.
Good job. Thank you. Anybody else? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I have this is probably a Wendy question, if she's still back there, just to completely put a staff member on the spot randomly. But my question or my comment is, she's not there, is regarding electric charging stations and whether or not we're currently pursuing any grant opportunities or anything to upgrade what we've got, or any community partnerships to upgrade what exists or add more. I went to the EV charging stations at Dock Street page on the city's website, but the page is blank. So not super helpful. And I know that there are a number of businesses that have them, but there aren't any like high-speed charging stations in the city that I'm aware of. And speaking of heads in beds and tourism, and my household has an EV, and so being able to charge up somewhere is definitely a consideration when we're planning. I know that just over the weekend, someone I know came, they drove up a couple hours for the Music Fest, stayed the whole weekend. They had to come charge at my house because I had a charging thing in my garage, and they, couldn't find anywhere to charge in a reasonable amount of time. And so I think that because a lot of people are kind of headed in that direction, including, I think, didn't the police department just acquire some, or going to acquire some EVs? It would make a lot of sense to look at upgrading that situation. I know that they're not inexpensive. The Clean Air Agency is working on installing some, and they're not inexpensive, but I think that maybe pursuing a community partnership, someone suggested that to me over the weekend, maybe Walmart, somebody, would be a good way to go. So I see hands up over there, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Chief has some feedback, and then can you check the grants application sheet that Wendy provides us weekly? And I'm pretty sure that we have applied for a grant there too.
That would be, that would be great.
Mayor, I'm happy to.
Go ahead, yeah, absolutely.
So I meet frequently with Wendy and Sandra Place. We recently applied for the Puget Sound Energy EV grant and awarded that grant, which installed a level 3 charger, which is the fastest charger we could have, and also 5 level 2 chargers. They're being installed at Public Works property. That location was decided because the city does have several EVs, the police department and the cities. Additionally, Island Transit could use that location and the school if they end up getting electric school buses. Puget Sound Energy did stop their grant program for a little bit. However, they've recently restarted it. Wendy and Sandra have both looked at applying for a few more grants that would be connecting Windjammer Park and our business district down in that central, south
Those would be
central area.
specifically eligible for public use.
That would be all eligible for public use, yeah, which would include a high-speed charger.
Excellent. That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Speak once, speak twice. All right. We are going to move on to public hearings and meetings then. The first up is public hearing ordinance number 2027, establishing 5-year rates for water, wastewater, solid waste, and storm drain services. Here to introduce that topic is our Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director, David Goldman.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, public, David Goldman, Finance Director and Deputy City Administrator. So at the June 17th, 2025 City Council workshop, staff relayed to Council that the current utility rates are insufficient to cover increases in utility fund costs. And that was also previously discussed during the 2025 meetings related to the budget, and it was also published in the budget document. So some of the factors that we went over that are affecting our utility rates are the solid waste tipping fees. Those are basically waste transfer fees that that our trucks have to pay when they go to Island County. Those went up about 21%, plus inflation. I think inflation was like 5.8% on top of that. So, and that was for 25. We're currently at the same rates we've been, and we're eating those costs. In addition, there'll be another inflation increase of about 5.3%. Starting in January. So for the water rates, we get our water from the Skagit River. City of Anacortes processes that and sends it out to us and a bunch of other regional partners. Those rates went up about 25% over what we had budgeted for in previous years. Also in this budget, we have included a comprehensive facility and infrastructure reserve for replacement. And then also, in general, we also have inflation for our operating costs as well. So, as I mentioned, those increases are just not sustainable at the current rates. And the budgeted fund balances, otherwise known as net position to the accountants, that's projected to start going negative as soon as the end of next year. And I have some charts for that. I showed these charts at the workshop. I'll show a few again, not the whole show, just a few of the main charts for everybody to take a look at. So these rates you see right here, this is a 10-year history on rates based on a single-family home, 700 cubic feet of water usage a month, and a 35-gallon roll cart for trash and recycling. That's the same criteria that was used by our consultants 3 years ago when they did the previous rate study. And you can see here, our rates over the past 9 years had an average increase per year of about 5.2%. And I went ahead and I looked at the Consumer Price Index, and I found in the national index, they have a measure called Water and Sewer and Trash Collection Services. Now, they don't have a breakdown for the Seattle region, but they have this for the nation. They have a lot more detail on the national one. And nationally, that reading went up 5.3% in the past year. So that's just another statistic to utilize to see how our increases have done compared to the national average. So the proposed rates for the next 5 years, But we have the current rate, 2025, just under $200. And on the average, they're looking to go up about $10 a month each year for the next 5 years. This is a chart that's in your backup. It's also in the ordinance. This is a chart of the water rates. That'll be increasing starting at the December 20th, 2025, and that'll be in effect for the year 2026. And the same pattern follows with each one of these columns. You see the monthly base rate for water. That's the residential. Actually, no, that's not resident. That's the pipe, type of pipe used. And also, and it's not just residential, it's a few other categories as well. You have a consumption charge depending on how much is used, and then you have your commercial charge right here. And you also have a smaller charge for irrigation. For sewer, this is our sewer rate schedule. You have a residential charge. It's a flat fee for residential. You have the multifamily fee per unit. Then you have a commercial charge and a school charge based on the volume. For solid waste is really about 4 different sub operations in one. You have the residential rates. You got the roll carts here for residential and also for recycling. Then you also have, if you have a dumpster, you got rates for that. And then down here you have rates for the yard waste. And for storm drain, you have rates over here for residential, single family, multifamily. Then you got rates over here for commercial, the different types of commercial. So the proposed rates, so that chart I showed a couple slides ago, it showed the total amount for that particular example. This is the change. This is just basically 26 minus 25, 27 minus 26, and so on. And you could see the increase is about a little bit over $10 a month per year. And down here you see the percentage for each one of the different utilities. You have the water utility on the top row, then you got sewer. Then you have solid waste, which is, like I said, those 4 sub-categories all rolled up into solid waste. And then you have storm drain at the bottom. And the average over the next 5 years is about 5.4%. So that's generally in line with those other past inflation factors and the national statistic that I showed a few slides ago. Here's a 10-year before and after. I took the last 5 years of the 10-year history, then I added the next 5 years in this rate study to show you that back in 2022, our rates peaked, and then the council reduced the sewer rates by 3%, then was able to reduce the sewer rate by about 19% due to that refinancing that we did on that debt for the clean water facility. And going forward, these rate increases it won't be until 2028 until the rate would exceed the peak where it was in 2023. So here's a chart I showed back in June. If rates aren't increased, this is the dashed line is the trajectory. Like the solid line here is your budgeted net position in each one of the utility funds, and the dashed line would be where it's going. It would be turning negative in all the funds, some sooner than others. But with the rate adjustments, I have the solid lines here, and those solid lines are able to keep ending net position from going negative, or budgeted ending net position. So this is a rate study comparable from the rate study that was done 3 years ago. You can see that Oak Harbor, when you add up all these 4 rates here, we had the highest rate at $223.06. And these are just looking at cities that have all 4 of the utilities. There's some cities that, have 3 but not 4, like some don't have solid waste or whatnot. But anyhow, this is what the consultant used when they were putting their comparison together. So I went ahead and just used those same cities and took a look at it today. And you could see that we're no longer on the top, but we're right in the middle. We're the only one on this chart to decrease the overall bill. And this is using that example of the single-family home that I had on the first slide. And here's the percentage here's the percentage increase over those 3 years for each one of the categories by city. So you can see that, for example, wastewater, we went down 22%, but other cities went up like 20% or 14%. Bonnie Lake also went down too. But you can see that, like, for example, solid waste. I mean, the average increase, not including Oak Harbor, is 28%. Our increase for solid waste was only 8%. So I think this waste transfer fee is statewide. I mean, it must be, because everybody is, even East Washington well, Walla Walla is only 5%. But at least within our region, you could see that the increases are pretty steep with solid waste. So I have that right there. And then I broke out each utility too. So you can see here that our water, we're a little, just about middle, a little bit over middle there compared to these cities right here. We're no longer number 1 in wastewater. We're down to number 3. We're near the bottom here for solid waste. And then we're in the middle for storm drain. So I have a suggested motion there on the screen to the council to deliberate or consider. And I and other people on staff are available to answer any questions you have. And of course, this is a public hearing, so we probably want to open that up to the public too.
Yeah, as soon as you're done talking.
I have a few more now.
All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing, and I will confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
And is there anyone here with us this evening that would like to step forward and make comment on this issue? Hearing or seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and call upon council for their questions and comments at this time. Councilmember Wiesner.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that, David. And so I just have a lot of comments, really no questions as I go through this, because there's a lot of information, and we could be here for hours, and Councilmember Stuckey might not get a pizza tonight. But ultimately, what I want to point out to everybody, or anybody who's listening, the utility rates are self-sustaining. They're enterprise funds. The city makes no profit off of utility rates. The only profit the city's going to make off of raising these rates is we are going to get a little bit of more money out of the utility tax, because the tax is based upon the dollar amount that's going to be, partial pennies on a dollar. I want to point out, because this hits home for everybody, literally, and the citizenry is going to be looking at this and going, oh, here they are again, raising utility rates. But the reality is, if we look at the inflation calculator for the last 10 years, 2015 to 2025, which is the numbers you took, averages 3.13% per year. 35.9% is the inflation factor we've experienced in Washington State since 2015 to 2025. Average 3% a year. When you look at the increases that we've seen in utility rates, which you have right here in the chart, 0.8% for water, 2.5% for solid waste, 0.3%, 5.2% average increase, but that's when we factor in the 11% for the sewage treatment plant, which I'll get to in a second. But you get all of our utility rates are running well below just the strictly inflationary rate. And again, these are standalone enterprise funds that have to be self-sustaining. So I just want to give kudos to all of staff, right, for being able to provide a level of service to the community and really do it for less money. Because that's what it comes down to. We're providing the same level of service and we're doing it for less money. Next thing that I thought was real interesting is when you looked at some of those comparable rates between other cities, and yeah, we've seen ourselves kind of realign into the middle, right? But for example, you look at Anacortes, the closeness of our rate to theirs for water, when we have how many miles of pipeline between Anacortes and here that we have to maintain. Yeah, it's what, 30 miles of pipeline, or 20 some miles of pipeline? People, how many miles of pipeline, Steve, between here and Anacortes? how many miles of pipeline is the city of Oak Harbor responsible for maintaining to get the water here?
From the bridge, basically, the Central Bridge here is about 6 miles,
Yeah, so what he said was 6 miles.
Deception Pass Bridge to the Navy base is about 6 miles.
But aren't we responsible for maintaining the pipeline all the way over to the?
And then Anacortes is responsible for the maintenance, but we pay for that maintenance.
Okay,
So that's, thank you.
There you go. So what I want to point out is we're delivering water over a much longer stretch with much higher maintenance costs, and we're maintaining a pretty status quo with the city that we buy the water from. Because for those who don't know, that's where our water comes from, is a contract with the city of Anacortes. And then I want to point out the vast majority of communities that have lower sewer rates than us have not built a new sewage treatment plant yet. Some of them are gearing up for it. Some of them are a little ways behind. Some of them patchworked an old sewage treatment plant and, are hoping that holds together for a while. But on that list, we're one of the few cities that have already tackled that. We've paid for it. We're paying for it now. And we're doing it at dollars from a few years back. Those cities who've yet to do it are going to be in for, I'm sure, as much of a sticker shock as we are. And solid waste is a biggie. I mean, look at Marysville. We're half of their rate. And yet the reality is we're all dealing with solid waste, quite frankly, in the same fashion, right? We're putting it in garbage cans and we're recycling what we can, but ultimately it's all being shipped out of area. Marysville is not handling their own solid waste at their own landfill anymore. None of these cities are. They're all being shipped to Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, and yet they're running at a double of what we are. So, and storm drain, let's face it, storm drain has been flat. It's been a flat charge. I think we raised it 30 cents a few years ago, but other than that 30-cent raise, it's been the same rate that it's been at for the last 10 years. So those are the facts that I pulled out of this. And again, I just wanted to reiterate that from my standpoint. Obviously, I'm going to support this. We can't go upside down in our enterprise funds. Obviously, when we did our previous rate increases, I was one of the guys in there scrapping to hold them back, stop them, get money back to the consumers. This isn't an about face on my end. This is more of a realization that it is time that we've, because of our good fiscal prowess and your refinancing, the things you've done, Mr. Goldman, we were able to give people some relief, and that relief, obviously, we've got to take some of that back to keep moving forward, but rates are still going to be below where they were 3 years ago. And in fact, it's 2030, I think, before we catch up to the rates that we were just charging a couple years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, am I right?
2028.
2028, okay. So, we're actually, I think, doing really well when you consider all of those factors. And again, thanks for the presentation, and thanks for giving me the ammo to say all that.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a point of clarification, the only rates that I guess I'll rephrase. The rates that we have essentially no control over are solid waste because we pay, the county charges what they charge, and our water rates because we purchase our water from Anacortes, and Anacortes charges us what they charge. So in terms of what we then charge to consumers is just, to cover the cost of what we're being charged for that. And on that note, have we had any conversations with either of those entities about what their rate structure is looking like going forward? In the past, I know our water rates have jumped up unexpectedly, and gosh, it was, I guess, probably about 10 years ago now, but the solid waste disposal, it went up, like 50% in 1 year with no notice. And so do we know what's happening there, or are we just kind of operating based on what's happening now?
I've had pretty detailed conversations with the city of Anacortes on their water rates. You might recall a few years ago, The water charge to us went from 2 to 3 million.
Yeah.
And then we talked to them and had some communication with them and discovered some stuff, and we're able to get that down to 2.5. But thing is, 2.5 is still 25% more than 2 million.
Yeah.
And it is justified. I mean, there are things that were needed for that, so we're able to work with them on that. As far as solid waste, I probably want to turn that over to our Public Works Director to give you more detail on those discussions if you have any.
Just, yeah, if there's been any word on the street about. There is. I guess because we don't have any control over what other people are charging us, that, like the water situation, the solid, it doesn't necessarily give me pause, but it's definitely a consideration. Do we have I guess the contingency plan is to just roll with the changes if there are any. The fact that someone can change what they're charging us at any moment is, not the most reassuring, but I don't know if you have any information in terms of solid waste and what their rate structure looks like going forward that they know of.
Yes, I love this topic, so David will
appreciate
kick
that.
me under the table in 30 seconds. You're right. A couple of points, just kind of big picture before, is that it is a unbelievably dynamic world.
Yeah.
And Councilmember Wiesner did a great job talking about the CPI. What I've mentioned before is what we're really watching in Public Works is the construction cost index. And I've shared that with David Goldman. We've shared a lot of good information back to me. That is just unbelievable. So to go build anything nowadays is, forget CPI, it's much higher. And so we are in a very dynamic world. And again, with solid waste, right, you will remember, or some of you remember China Sword, where, all of our Nike tennis shoes came over from China to the United States, and then we filled them up with our recycling and sent it back to China. And it was a wonderful situation for many, many years, and that's no longer the case. So it is very dynamic. I think the greatest thing that the city can do to be the most resilient and robust is to really work on a good redevelopment of your waterfront district. That is my answer. Because you want to build that 500 acres in such a way that you're bringing that growth in a way that can be the most sustainable, and that income that can come in and have the least amount of costs that have to come out. And I think with the work that you're also doing with the county on how much you want to expand out into the farmlands and forest is a critical decision. So those growth decisions are where you can make the most impact long-term. Some of the things we can't control, whether China takes our recycling, and we can talk to our lobbyists and they can tell us what we just have to pay for, right? So you're right, some of those things we just have to deal with. But that's where you can become the most resilient in how you grow from here on out. What's that next city of Oak Harbor going to look like for the next 100 years? And do it in a really resilient way. So some of the things that the council has done is you are paying for us to drill the groundwater well on well number 9, so that if there is a major earthquake and we don't have water, we're going to have a more robust water system. What council and the mayor has already done is we now have a new alt field that has a new power structure, new motor control center. So we now can provide good, safe water to the city, where before, if you bumped up against it, the whole thing went down. So you are making those investments today, even with the work that David Goldman has presented to you regarding the rates. So it's not something you're pushing off to future generations. You're making those investments now, and that is to be commended.
I think it's good to know that we're being proactive over the things that we can control. And you always bring it back around to the big picture. I appreciate that, Steve. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be a little more pointed on Mayor Pro Tem's question. Do we have any guarantees that these rates are going to be sustainable for the next 5 years? Do we have a contract that says this is going to be our water rate, our tipping rate? Does that work for you in business? No, I'm asking because if we're going to set a 5-year rate, then we need to have some kind of an idea. We have a contract on water, right?
We have contracts as long as they'll allow us to negotiate them. We're not going to be able to go beyond what they're willing to negotiate.
I understand, but we have a 5-year contract on our water with our rates.
Correct.
And so that's what my question is our
Well-
rate set for 5 years? Do we know what we're going to pay over the next 5 years?
The thing about projections and rate studies and anything really regarding trying to predict the future is the farther and farther you go out, the more and more likelihood of the numbers being off, right? So I can tell you that the information that I have right now from the city of Anacortes, I have the information for this year and next year. And as far as solid waste goes, we have the information for next year as well. When it comes to information beyond the next 2 years, we're using estimates and averages and projections, and we also do coordinate with them and ask them questions. But things can change, things can happen, and we would have to make adjustments at that time. But the good news is, if things change for the positive and costs come in less than we need, we will bring this back and we will ask you to temper the rate increases, or maybe even say, hey, we're good and we don't have to bring any more rate increases for the outgoing years. This is basically a plan based on the assumptions and information that we know right now that would be able to cover increases in costs that we're, projecting out. But things can change, just like with anything.
So does it make sense to do 5 years and not just a couple of years or 2-3 years? I mean, what I don't want to be doing is, we made an adjustment last year, we're making an adjustment again this year, are we going to have to make an adjustment again in another year or 2 years? I commend the mayor and this administration for having the replacement costs and building that into, as part of this rate structure, because we didn't have the infrastructure reserves before, and it's been long overdue, and so I really appreciate that. I understand we can't go upside down on our balances or our rates either, but I don't want to continue to create uncertainty for houses to be saying, okay, well, this is what we're looking at for the next 5 years. We're up here saying, yeah, that's great. We're not going to match 2023's rates until 28, but that is not necessarily true, in that if these rates are only good for 2 years, and then we may have to adjust again. So,
I mean, this is the plan that we're presenting based on the information that we have. Whether we approve it for 5 years or just 4 years or 3 years, if we just approve it for 3 years, we'd have to come back in 3 years and do another plan for the outgoing 2 years. But if we approve a plan for 5 years, we may be okay. In all likelihood, based on the numbers we're looking at, we're going to be more likely to be able to keep the 5 years without changing it than the likelihood would be to have to come and change it. So that's kind of the plan, to have something that's put in place to give some semblance of stability so we can move forward with adopting it now. And of course, we'll revisit it over time, and if we need to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments, but the hope is we won't have to make adjustments and we'll be good. But, either way, you have to bring it back. There's always the possibility of having to bring it back one way or the other.
yeah, I understand that. We bring it back with the accurate numbers, but David, you've done amazing work, and I trust your projections, and I'm comfortable going forward with a 5-year projection, so.
I think, just to reiterate too, I understand and appreciate what you're asking, but I don't think any of us within the administration feel certain enough to tell you we can guarantee a number, because there are so many things that are outside of our control. So we're doing the best with the information that we have at hand, as well as what is predicted to happen over the next 2 years, and then we're making our best educated guess with all of that information. But we can't guarantee you that.
No, I understand that. That's the reasoning for the question about the contract. I don't know the length of our contract, what we're already guaranteed, and so without knowing that knowledge personally, that's why I asked that question.
Got it. Yes, Councilmember Arms.
Well, the thing is, I know we can't really guarantee what Anacortes is going to do or anybody else, but, we're putting out a prediction to give people what we think. But I can tell you from 2025, that is not mine. Mine is $26 lower. My bill is lower than this $199.06, and has been for months. And I think maybe that's a little bit more that we should explain to people. You can't guarantee when you have kids, but, sometimes you have to look at what you're using. And I think sometimes we have this fallacy that, you're mad because your rates are high, but how are you using your water? I mean, what, are we teaching people to be conservative with their water? I mean, I don't expect them to go without, but are you being conservative? And I think we're just saying, oh, here they are. Well, maybe it behooves all of us, and sometimes you can't help it, it is what it is, but behooves all of us to be really looking at how really conservative you are with what you have. Are you using it to your best so that maybe it won't impact you as high? I mean, you can't dictate what people want to do. I'm just saying for our household. I mean, we only have the two of us. Unless the cats have been using the water, I don't know, but,
Yeah,
you know.
we just used, we used what the consultant used 3 years ago as an example, 700 cubic feet of water, that's what they used, so, you know, that was based on a statewide average, so.
But I think sometimes, I'm just saying this, that I think sometimes we kind of look at it, we just assume this sometimes, and, you know, we're not, I think we just need to encourage, if people can, more conservation, and really behooves people to look at, you know, when they're mad about their bill, how are you really using it? Are you being proactive, I guess?
So Councilmember, some of the steps that we take in that is we do provide what we call outreach education to the public, whether it's around water conservation, recycling, which changes the size of your garbage cart, things like that that we do to help educate them about ways that they can do that. We've also offered tools related to water timers and other fixtures you can add to your bathroom that assist with that as well. So we have those things that we've offered and provided to help consumers. But as we've heard in the past from Chris Price, you know, our community members do a pretty good job of conserving their water. Last we checked, so that's been good information. But those are all tools that we have. And again, to the question from the council, the state requirements that are out there related to solid waste, that's an area I used to work very closely in, and they keep changing, and the limitation of where we can put this material keeps changing, and it's requiring us to make adjustments. So I think that's something that every city, county is dealing with and trying to find some options for. So these are some of the tougher conversations that are out there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Arms. Councilmember Merrill.
I was looking at the numbers, Mr. Goldman, and I'm reminded of a graduate professor that gave us a problem, and it was a losing position. And we all agreed it was a losing position. And then the professor magically worked the numbers and turned it into a winning position. And so I see that going on here with regard to past utility rates and our net position moving forward because of your financial skills. Is really almost miraculous in my limited knowledge of finance. So thank you for that piece. And after the discussion, I would be glad and proud to make the motion.
All right, yes, Councilmember Stuckey.
I think a lot of people could look at this logically and realize that costs are being increased by us and costs are being passed along. What is our communications plan besides just saying, hey, we discussed it at a council meeting to convey this to the public?
Well, we'll be doing outreach once this is approved to all of our, customers. We'll be putting it on our website. We'll be sending it, we'll be sending the increases to them as part of the monthly bills to make sure they're prepared for the changes that are, that'll be implemented in the first bill, for January. And
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the more homes, developments that hook up, the more the cost is spread, and logically, the less things would cost, correct?
I mean, it's yes and no, kind of. Like, when I used to do per capita multiplier fiscal impact analysis models, as development would come in and we were trying to figure out, like, all right, how much more property taxes and sales taxes would it generate and all that, we'd also have to take into account that, well, this new development also requires services, right? Like, there's standards like this many police officers per thousand, or, we need to have this kind of fire coverage and this amount of parks per this many acres per person, that kind of thing. It depends on the city, depends on the standard and all that. So, the more customers that you have to hook up, the more the cost will spread out, but the more operating expenses might also increase because then you have more pipes to maintain and you have more issues that might occur. You know, maybe there's like a flooding event or something or a sewer backup or who knows. But, you know, things do occur that we need to make sure that we're maintaining. So it's kind of, you know, yes, initially probably would be helpful, but over time as the maintenance costs go up, you know, it'd probably end up being a wash.
I just say that with all the housing developments we have coming, you know, the D.R. Horton one. And I understand, like, you know, you add 100 homes, what's the actual impact? I understand we're not saying, ooh, the bills are going to go down by $20 because 100 homes hooked up. I get that. Are we doing anything, because this is a question that the public would like to know, are we doing anything actively to help reduce the rates? There's always the conversation of get the Navy to hook up. Is there any progress with that, or is that kind of a stalled, or can you speak much to it?
It's definitely something we continue to pursue. At this time, they're quite happy the way they are operating,
So I guess sorry.
And real briefly, at the next meeting on the 16th, we're going to talk about our RFP that the council's already funded as part of this budget to go out for planners and engineers to do our 2-year infrastructure planning. And that is that foundation. You build that correctly, that's the key. You know, everything that then gets built on top of that, if you have a crumbling, bad way of your foundation, that's bad. And that's going to take us about 2 years. That's going to take us 2026 and 2027 to go through that. So yes, the mayor and the council have moved that forward, and we're going to bring that to you next meeting.
And then my two last thoughts are, one, if this goes through, I'm going to have a real hard time personally if for some reason there was the conversation about increasing the utility tax for the marina. That's going to be a tough pill for me to swallow if we come back 3 months from now, if it doesn't go well with LTAX, saying, ooh, now we have to increase the utility tax, because to the average Joe, that's still your utilities going up. And I personally would prefer, much like Councilman Marshall was alluding to, I would prefer looking at improving a 3-year as opposed to a 5-year.
Thank you. Yes, Councilmember Romero?
Just as a matter for the record, Mr. Goldman, the projected numbers are nominal dollars or are they inflation-adjusted projections?
We added an inflation factor to the model.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilmember Wiesner.
Mr. Goldman, doesn't our rates somehow tie into our CIP? I mean, if we don't have rates set, we're going to still be making assumptions of rates based upon laying out 6-year projections on maintenance and infrastructure within those enterprise funds, aren't we?
No, these rates are put in place by City Council. These rates are not automatic. They're not updated automatically by CPI. These particular rates.
No, I'm talking the capital improvement plan. Within the enterprise funds, we have plans for replacements of water mains. We have plans for replacement of major infrastructure.
Yep.
Isn't that tied into these rates somehow?
Yeah.
I mean, a portion of these rates go to fund the CIP. So you're going to be making an assumption of rates if we don't have a rate plan out as far as the CIP as to how to fund the items that are projected in the CIP.
Yeah, the capital improvement projects are all included in the rate model. So exactly how the City Council adopted it, and those numbers do have inflation built in, when they put those numbers in. Those are all included in the rate model, so that's taken into account with these rates. And that CIP goes out to 2030, which is another reason why, we put a 5-year plan in place, so we'd be able to better cover those costs that are, that are included in our, in our capital expenses.
Well, because I'm trying to understand, the thought process behind it. If we shorten the time of what we're doing here from 5 years to 3 years, you'd kind of indicated really the only advantage to that is that we don't have to look at it again if we don't want to for 5 years, where we'd be forced to look at it in 3 years, which I don't think is a terrible problem to have, quite frankly, as long as it doesn't affect our ability to budget for long-range plans, because let's face it, we don't move quick at anything. If it wasn't for long-range plans, there'd probably be no plan at all. So I just want to make sure that if we did, take Councilmember Stuckey's and Councilmember Marshall's idea and shorten this to a 3-year rate plan, would that affect our long-range budgeting on the CIP end?
Well, we wouldn't have those revenues that we were counting on when we're doing the budgeting for CIP, that are part of this. But, we'd bring it back to council in 3 years and just explain the situation to council and just say, if you want to continue these projects the way we've been planning them, then these are what the rates need to look at. This is what we need to be looking at for rates,
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand this, because we will be making plans for things 4 and 5 years out. I mean, it's not going to change us making those plans, but if we do, we're going to be budgeting in items based on a flat rate? In other words, we're going to keep when we're budgeting for a plan 4 years out, what budget are we going to use to budget that? Under the current rate structure? Are we going to assume that the rates are we've got to have some place to pull a number from. Where are we pulling it from?
I mean, if we only do 3 years, I'd have to just go ahead and take final year of the 3-year and just make those flat for the outgoing 2 years. Because I couldn't really predict that we were going to be increasing rates if we didn't do a 5-year plan. So what will end up happening is for those capital projects that are out, the 4th and 5th year, if they were counting on any kind of, and I don't have, all the capital projects in my head, but if they were counting on rate funding to fund them, that, we just have to put it under the category unfunded. We do have a category there for, unsecured grants or future funding, and that would what we have to do until we're able to get some sort of funding to pay for those capital projects in the 4th and 5th year of the CIP.
So I guess that would concern me probably more than having to come back and discuss this again in 3 years. Of course, I won't be here in 3 years, but anyhow, I guess that part would concern me more if we, found a project that out at year 4 or year 5, and we felt as though that project needed to, get on the slate so that we could get started with the permits, so that we could get started with other grant applications or matching funds, and yet we weren't able to fund that project because we're basing our revenues off of a flat revenue model rather than a revenue model that makes more sense to what we might end up with. I guess that would be my concern. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wiesner. Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to adopt Ordinance 2027, establishing 5-year rates for water, wastewater, solid waste, and storm drain services.
We have a motion as proposed by Mayor Pro Tem Eisen. We have it seconded by Councilmember Mero. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? You have discussion? Okay, that's discussion.
Mayor, you have certain skills in this area. Do you have any observation to make about a 3 or 5 year difference?
I think that we've already made that observation. I don't have anything different from what's already been presented.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is there any other discussion at this time? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We are going to move on to continuation of public hearing ordinance number 2025, clearing and grade code amendment. This is a continuation of the public hearing from the July 1, 2025 council meeting. Here to introduce this topic is our senior planner, Dennis Lefevre.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, members of the council. This is a continuation of the amendment to our code to combine the land clearing and grading sections of our code into one. We had a comment, first slide, Tim. We had a comment issued at our July 2nd meeting that asked us to look at the new state statute that created the middle housing section of the statute to ensure that we are in conformance with that statute as far as creating an exemption for multiple units on single-family lots. So we did our research into that. Next slide, please, Tim. And basically what that statute mandates is that for cities with a population of at least 25,000 but less than 75,000, we must allow for 2 units per lot on all lots zoned predominantly for residential use. We also must allow 4 units per lot on all lots zoned predominantly for residential use within 1/4 mile walking distance of a major transit stop. And also, we must allow development of at least 4 units per lot on all lots zoned predominantly for residential use, and that's single-family lots, if at least 1 unit is classified as affordable housing. Next slide, Tim. What we found out was our 2025 population did not reach that 25,000 threshold that's indicated in the statute. We are under that, which presents basically 2 options for you as council, that we either proceed with the ordinance amendment, anticipating that the city will reach a population of 25,000. The amendment would change the exemption section of the proposed municipal code, section 20.15, or the other option is to remain as proposed without that density exemption provision. I had conversations, next slide please, Tim. I had conversations with our other fellow professional planners, and we are strongly recommending that we proceed without the density exemption at this point in time, simply because there are many other items to the state law that created that RCW .635 that we are looking at processing as a package deal. The exemption would be part of that package and provide consistency with other parts of the code as amendment. The other thing too is that section of the state statute requires us to do a monitoring system, which we do not have in place at this point in time. And it also requires us to track the development and continuation of the affordable housing unit that may be created on one of those single-family lots as mandated within the statute. So, with staff's recommendation, we are recommending that we continue with the amendment as proposed back on July 2nd, knowing that that package that addresses so many other pieces of this statute will be coming forth. I'm saying next year. Ray indicated that he's working on that package as we speak, and probably will be available for review beginning 2026. So, with that, I would be happy to respond to any questions that you may have.
All right, first I will reopen the public hearing, and I will confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
All right, and I will ask those of us gathered here this evening, is there anyone here that would like to step forward and make public comment on this issue at this time? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing and call upon council for their questions and concerns of Mr. Dennis Lefevre. Any questions or concerns from council? Councilmember Wiesner.
Thank you, Dennis. I just want to understand the relationship when you say exemption and we're talking about these densities, which you're absolutely correct. We're going to get hit with a whole lot of things, not only this year, but in the 2026 legislature, because it seems like they've picked that 25,000 population, and that's a number they're going to stick with for a lot of these affordable housing or middle housing initiatives. But are you saying that we either adopt the ordinance as is, or we adopt it with the provision that if they meet the criteria you had listed there involving density, that then they're exempt from the clearing and grading permit? Is that what you're saying?
That would be correct.
So you're saying within the state legislature they actually passed an ordinance that says if we're a population over 25,000 and somebody wants to put a ton of density that meets those criteria on a single-family lot, that would exempt them from clearing and grading permit, but isn't a clearing and grading permit where we would capture any critical areas or any other things associated with the development?
Well, typically, critical areas is reviewed as a separate process away from land clearing and grading. So that would be a separate process related to any type of development.
Without having to have a clearing and grading permits, couldn't somebody go in and clear and grade a piece of property that they intend to put a fourplex on without a permit? Because if there's no permit required, what's stopping me from doing that?
Well, there would be a building permit required.
Well, again, but before I put anything vertical, my first thing is to go in and clear land, right? And if there's no clearing and grading permit required to clear land, and yet I haven't fully vetted my building permit application, what's stopping me from clearing the land?
I don't see anything that would be stopping you.
Okay, I'll have to digest that for a minute. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Wiesner, thank you. Anybody else want to ask questions or speak? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve? Yes, Councilmember Romero.
So Councilmember Wiesner, with regard to your question, are we accepting a liability risk by moving without this permission that you're saying is not required, or you're suggesting is not? I don't want the council to be passing something that is subject to litigation.
I'm still wrapping my head around that, Dennis, because it just seems so backwards, kind of. Because I know it's happened before, right? In fact, I'm trying to think. I think the D.R. Horton project, there was some controversy over some clearing and grading that had occurred up there prior to, getting the full clearing and grading permit. I think there was just some trees that were cut down, and I think there was actually a kind of a stop that got put on that project. And so I'm just thinking through the normal development project and how it works, and how many times I can think of people have gone in, cleared a piece of property before getting a clearing and grading permit, and then found out, should have got a clearing and grading permit first. Because there's so many other things tied to that, like, the moving of 500 cubic yards of, combined dirt can create a reason for a clearing and grading permit. A critical area can create a reason for a clearing and grading permit. The sale of any sort of timber whatsoever. You can't sell, trade, or barter more than 5,000 board feet of timber without a clearing and grading permit. And to think that all of that goes out the window if I say that I'm going to put a fourplex on that lot, or if I say I'm going to put an affordable house on that lot, I'm just trying to understand where within our process that would make sense, because I'm not required to apply for a building permit till I'm ready to build a building. And if I can skip over the clearing and grading permit process altogether by saying my intentions are to apply for a building permit to build an affordable building, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and
help me.
I think that's one of the reasons that we are not proposing that we amend our exemption section at this point in time. There are a lot of nuances in that new section of statute that we need to work through and make sure that we are covered, and including the land clearing and grading. So that was one of the reasons why we want to maintain the same exemptions that we've had in code for many years without changing that to reflect the new statute, which we aren't required to amend anyways because of the population threshold. So that will give us some time to make sure that we are covered in the event that on a single family lot somebody wants to build 4 units meeting the criteria. Where do we plug in the process to include land clearing and a grading permit requirement?
Did that answer your question?
Well, close enough that I'm going to move to adopt ordinance number 2025, repealing the Oak Harbor Municipal Code, Chapter 19.47, land clearing, and adding Chapter 20.15, land clearing and grading.
All right, we have a motion as presented by Councilmember Wiesner, seconded by Councilmember Merrow. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. I think that's everybody. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
All right, we are going to move on with continuation of public hearing ordinance number 2026, code amendment regarding permit review timelines. This is a continuation of the public hearing from July 1, 2025 council meeting. And here to introduce this is Kat Kamak, even though it says Ray Lindbergh.
Good evening, Kat Kamak, Principal Planner. Short introduction to this amendment. This again was continued from the July 1st meeting to the September 2nd meeting here based on a public comment. The public comment was basically questioning whether we needed a separate ordinance where landmarks and landmark designations, street vacations, and other approvals need to be somehow very specifically exempted. Staff reviewed the RCWs with our legal staff and determined that the whereas statement can be included in this ordinance. It doesn't need a separate ordinance to justify that you're going to exempt landmark designations and street vacation. If we include a whereas statement in here, it'll satisfy that requirement. So we believe that will do the address that public comment. So we have added that whereas statement to the current ordinance and presented to the council. Nothing else has changed on this. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, CAC, for that. I will reopen the public hearing and confirm with our city clerk, Julie Nestor, that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
Great, thank you. And I will now invite anyone that is here with us this evening that would like to step forward and make public comment on this issue. All right, hearing none, we will close the public hearing and call upon council for their questions and comments. And if there are none, then I would entertain a motion. Yes, Councilmember Marshall.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2026, amending chapter 18.20 of the Oak Harbor Municipal Code pertaining to procedural requirements for permitting.
So we have a motion as presented by Councilmember Marshall, seconded by Councilmember Wiesner. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, it's passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We are on to ordinances and resolutions. Resolution 2534, Marina Master Fee Schedule. Here to introduce this topic is our Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director, David Goldman.
Good evening. This item is an adjustment to the Master Fee Schedule, Schedule D, Marina Dredge Fee. I know I had a pointer somewhere.
Back up there.
Disappeared. Thank you. So, per the direction provided by the City Council on August 6th, when the business occupation, local business occupation tax was adopted by City Council, there were a few other items to pursue that went along with that funding to help fund the marina dredging and breakwater. One of them was the dredge fee. This dredge fee adjustment is estimated to raise between $90,000 and $100,000 annually, and these funds will be used in conjunction with the B&O local B&O tax collections to pay project debt service, because for the debt instrument that we'll be taking out to pay for those 2 marina projects. This is scenario 5. This is what we decided the council had decided to pursue as far as the marina dredge fee. You can see here that the increase over what is anticipated to take effect next month is about $25 a month on the dredge fee, which is about 7%. There was just a slight rounding thing, about 8 cents difference between this and what it actually ended up being. It was $429.43 for a 32-foot uncovered monthly rate. I'm probably the only one who noticed that, but it's important to me. So, and with that, we have a recommended motion. It's not a public hearing, so.
All right, so I will confirm no public comments have been received.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received on this item.
All one of you out there would you like to step forward and make a public comment? No? Okay. All right. There being no one stepping forward to make any additional comments, I will call upon council for their questions and concerns at this time. Yes, Councilmember Stuckey.
Did this get run by the MAC? Do they have an opinion?
The MAC was present during the city council meeting when the B&O was adopted, and the MAC did have a meeting after that, and this didn't even come up as an issue regarding the increase in the fees that they're going to end up having to pay. Of course, we have. I don't know if Elise is still here. Let me check. Oh, she's right there. Go ahead. I didn't know you were here. Yeah. Elise, everybody.
The MAC had no comments that I'm aware of as far as increasing this dredge, the additional 7%.
Any other questions or comments from council at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Or not.
I move to adopt Resolution 24-34, amending the Oak Harbor Master Fee Schedule, Schedule D for the marina.
We have a motion as presented by Councilmember Arms, seconded by Councilmember Merrow. Is there any further discussion? What's that?
I was wondering if it was confidently seconded.
Oh, do we have any further discussion before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, other items for consideration. Approval of accounts payable vouchers, Chamber of Commerce. Note this voucher list contains a payment or payments to the Greater Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce, of which Councilmember Marshall is the Executive Director. In order to avoid a conflict of interest, Councilmember Marshall has stated he will recuse himself from a vote on such payments, which are now a separate agenda item. I will confirm now at this time that we received no public comment on this issue.
That's correct, Mayor. No public comments were received.
Are there any additional comments from those of you here this evening for this item? All right, hearing none, I will call upon council for their questions or comments. Yes, Councilmember Wiesner.
I move to approve voucher 200810 to the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
We have a motion as presented by Councilmember Weiser, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Heisen. Is there any further discussion before I call for a vote?
As a non-paid member of the Board of Directors and a non-voting member of the Board of Directors of the Chamber, do I need to recuse myself?
You haven't so far.
Well, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and vote then. All right, I'm not going to recuse myself then.
I mean, Hillary's there if she wants to weigh in, but you've voted in the past. I don't think we have an issue, so, yeah.
Okay.
So. All right, any other comments, questions before I call for a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. All those abstaining? Okay, so 6, 4, 1 abstention. Thank you, that motion passes. All right, there being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Confidently, second.
All right, all in favor, raise your right hand.